professor, I will test you in the worst way. Don't bring a Scantron, pop quizzes all day. Cause of our chemistry, we do biology.
What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail, man. The future of the children, man. I believe the children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. And watch Coming to America. But talking and listening. Us as parents who might have grew up, you know, I'm Gen X, right? I'm at the end of Gen X, the beginning of millennials, right? Um, Being a kid in the 80s, a teenager in the 90s, kid and teenager in the 90s, and looking at how society is now as far as parent and children, we fail a lot of these kids, man, because they didn't have a childhood. And I'm talking I'm you know, let's just say I had a very interesting childhood with some ups and some downs, right? So from the loving grandparents to the crack era affecting the home, you know, to to all that stuff, right? Crackhead stealing your bike, but I had a bike in the road with my friends. You see what I'm saying? Um, well, I had before they stole the bike, but looking at it, looking back over the years, I think I shed some tears. But even using Teddy Pendergrass as a reference, the interaction with family, with music, with culture, holidays, eating at the table, going to church, you know, have people guiding you, being disciplined, um, having chores, having, you got to come home when the street light come home. By the time the street light comes on, being able to interact with people, learning respect for your elders and respect for people, listening to people who were you would consider respectable, and even people who were drug addicts and alcoholics. We used to call them winos back in Chicago or whatever. They used to tell you, hey, young, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, and they would tell you stuff, and you would take it in, you would listen, and dealing, still dealing with race issues and police and all that, even as a child, you know. Um, but when I look at the kids now, it's like, that's why I use Riley and Huey as a reference, because it's like you see too many kids emulating what they think a thug is, and they're not built like that. They didn't come from that environment, and even if they're in that environment now, it's very much so a softer version of what it was. It's just y'all got access to guns, and y'all think it's harder. It's just y'all scared to fight. And I've seen the evolution of that, from the 80s to the 90s to now. Like, people have just been more and more scared to fight, and they'd rather shoot you and kill you because they soft. You know what I'm saying? And then you see, the kids want to be, Huey, smart, intelligent, um, and they don't really want to be in looked at as a young street stereotype. And then you see people trying to like be a little bit of both or whatever. But when you talk to them, they really didn't have a childhood, because they don't have friends like we had friends. My son used to talk about my friends. I'm like, but you never see them. Like, you never kick it with them. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, y'all never in the same space. Like, y'all don't know each other's families and nuances, and you know, y'all just on the phone. Really, we were on the phone because we couldn't be in person if we got on the phone. But y'all just on the phone all the time, and it's socially awkward. And even when we try to push some of y'all out, it's like we try to push some of y'all out, and y'all got this anxiety in your comfort zone thing. And even when I see the clips and the videos of all the basketball court stuff, well, guys playing ball, and it could get heated. That Basketball always you had heated games, but this idea that all of these guys gonna intimidate you and fight you over basketball, it's ridiculous because it's basketball. You want boxing? No. You want to play some football? No. You want to? I'll show you. Basketball is a sport for Negroes who can't fight. That's what basketball is predominantly with guys who can't fight. So the idea that all these guys are just super thugged out because they got a tattoo across their chest is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, but it's what it is. Um, and you can see that because when we were younger, we knew if you wanted to get aggressive, what we could do. Okay, all right. Where the ball at? Where the football at? And then it's, you know, but this, and I feel sad because, I remember when I was younger, how you would go to school and guys would play dumb because, you know, they didn't want to be seen as smart because it wasn't cool to be smart. And that whole the smart kids had a whole different struggle than the cool kids, and the cool kids wound up not being cool when they got older, and they just look stupid, and the smart kids were really the kids that kind of was a bit cool and a bit smart, because sometimes the smart kids were too regimented to the fact that they could only think in a book. We used to say, book smarts but no street smarts, or book smarts but no common sense. So they weren't practical all the time, practical enough. But the kids aren't interacting enough to figure all that out. So it's all like catfish personalities. And I'm wondering, like, man, yo, what are y'all gonna do? Like, seriously, what are y'all gonna do? Because at the end of the day, this is not gonna end well. And, I would say the drugs and the alcoholism is really sometimes now looks more of a symptom of anxiety from being socially awkward, because we had to deal with it. We had to be in those little dances where we have to go ask a person for a dance, or get rejected. Maybe we got rid of that when we was young. You know what I'm saying? We approaching people, you know, having a girlfriend or not having. That was young. Getting in fights, got young. You know what I'm saying? Learning how to trash talk, young. You know, dealing with the older generation, the age group above us, or a few years above us, in any type of competition or mentorship. We did that. You know what I'm saying? We did that. But now, where these kids gonna go? Because it's like they look like they're aimless, and when people try to guide them, it's like, you can't tell me nothing. It's like, well, if nobody can tell you anything and you're never going anywhere, where you think you're gonna end up? You know. So it's gonna be it's a rough thing sometimes, and like I said, sometimes we gotta blame ourselves because we're not giving these kids the same childhood we had as far as parenting and guidance is concerned, for the most part. And I can say this also: people are able to provide it, but people are running from it and getting protected to run from it also, and winding up in a bad situation. So, you know, the Hueys of the world are outcasted, and the Rileys of the world become the norm. And guess what? Riley want to smarten up at a certain point. So, tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe, or die trying. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace. You ever been at the top of the universe? I'm gonna take you.